I forgot recording with Mike's Zoom is a little different than the other. This week we're looking at needs assessment. Needs assessment are important, particularly for foundational grants. They tend to be ones that I was told ask you for them more often than the other. Because in foundation grant, often you're going to be writing a request to send them a proposal, and the needs assessment will go in with that. In a big grant, like the NSF grant funding that I kind of gave you the template for, the needs assessment gets condensed into a smaller section, but having it laid out ahead of time and understanding what argument you're making for it, and that can help you really be persuasive when you write your narrative, which we'll be getting to soon. So you were supposed to have looked at 4 different needs assessment papers that were attached to the classroom within the week 8 segment. All right, so if everybody could pull this out. I didn't have you turn them in at all, and I'm going to try and be really clear, but please tell me if I am being, clear as mud with things, because sometimes in my brain it makes sense and it doesn't make sense to anybody else. So within the needs assessment packet that was within the class for week 8, there were 4 different needs statements, and then there was an evaluation sheet and then a kind of planning sheet for you. All right, so what I was hoping that you would understand from what I wrote was that you didn't have to turn anything in with this. We're going to have a small discussion about it. I would like to talk you through then each of your needs assessments, and then if you need to make changes, you can turn them back in. I'm all about mastery of the stuff and not just, turning something in and getting a lot of points docked. I'd rather you redid it and turned it in a better format than kind of take your time and redo pieces of it. All right, so the very first, I'm going to share this. The very first needs statement that was in the packet, I have them up here right now so you can kind of look on here, is the one about the FSM, Micronesia, and its schools. All right, you have, how did I get out of there? I just stopped sharing for some reason. I didn't touch anything. You have gone through there and you have scored it according to the peer evaluation sheet. So you're kind of looking at whether you think it's fair, poor, excellent, based on these different criteria, okay? So what I would like from all of you is whether you would give them funding or not. So go ahead.
Like for all of them, or this first one?
First one. Just the first one.
No way.
Okay. So Jeremy says no. I'm keeping track. Yeses and nos. Or
Preston says no.
Okay.
Lorraine says no.
Okay. Jeremy says no. I see that. I can't see all of you on here, so you're not going to be able to just thumbs down me.
Okay. Melissa says no.
Melissa says no. Does anybody say yes? How about we do it that way? No, nobody says yes for these poor Micronesia people.
Would have liked to.
I'd like to. I think they have an interesting project, but in my opinion, I would not fund them either. What are some reasons that you had for not funding them?
I actually went through, Jen. I thought I had to turn it in, so I've got a few pages of stuff.
Oh,
I know, and I was almost mad about it. Then I thought, well, I'd tell my own students, big deal, you're ahead for a change, zip it.
Right.
So I moved on pretty quickly. But, the one area where I think I beat them up the most, because I used the ratings listings, that the guide that you gave us was the what you did. Mm-hmm. And gave them a 1 for poor, and if there had been a 0, I would have given them a 0. Mm-hmm. There's just no explanation of what's happened thus far, mm-hmm. and they do give a single goal, improving the likelihood of the mainland university admission. They're just not offering up any other objectives for what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does anybody want to add?
Well, they also didn't state what they were going to do with the money. right? Like, so they never asked directly, give me this money for this reason.
Yeah, the only thing they say is train teachers to maintain the rich cultural and linguistic understanding.
They seem to be working from a really flawed assumption too, that even if they get more people to these mainland universities, that they're going to come back and improve things in Micronesia. They don't offer any evidence that that'll really happen.
Very good. Anybody else?
That was the point altogether, that there wasn't any support for any of what they were saying. And if they had at least said, you know, X percent of people have done X, Y, and Z, then we would have at least had something to base it on.
I mean, they provided lots of great detail about where they were and how they were isolated and their geographical situation, which took up most of the paper. But really, which is what their argument was, you know, that they are isolated, they do need technology. But I just found, for sure, no clear objectives, goals or objectives there that were concrete.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to add to it?
Well, to be honest, it seems like an introduction. It seems like it's missing information. Like, this is a great start.
Yeah.
And they ran out of time, but they need to finish the rest of it. So it's like it's missing pages.
Yeah. It feels to me like when you give a student in class an essay and they know a whole lot about the geography and that kind of thing, and they really didn't understand the rest of the question. So they wrote a whole lot about what they knew about and then kind of like, gee, I'm out of time and I'm out of space, so I'm skimping on the end of it here. I think that, truthfully, I mean, I think it has a lot of merit to what they're talking about because they're maintaining the cultural space and they're looking at, you know, uniformity. Yes, that is it, Tammy, exactly. You're exactly right. Every single point that you have is a point that I have written down here. They don't have actually any factual information to back it up. They're not citing anything. They're not using any things that they can pull from government reports or, you know, even local data. They have no goal listed. They have no explanation of what they're actually trying to do. And I imagine there's at least one typo too. Yeah, I'm sure there is.
No, there absolutely is. In the let's see, in the third paragraph, second line, they use the word adopt. I'm positive they meant to use the word adapt. Adopt doesn't fit there. Although theirs was not in the worst shape in that regard. One of the other ones took the cake for that.
Yeah. All right. So any other comments you have about the first one?
And just the use of acronyms and things, you know, using the acronym before describing, especially in that top paragraph. It's like, what is this FSM? You learn about it later down the road.
Yeah. Okay. So we're all going to give them a thumbs down. We are not funding them. So right now our bank account is looking pretty good. So then we move on to needs statement number 2. Typically, whenever they leave blanks in something like that, that is to blind it for review. So you can't give them any points off for having a blank in there. All right. What did you vote on number 2? Did anybody vote to fund it? Wow, you guys are a hard crowd. Man, nobody's funding this one either.
That's a hard pass again.
Well, there was confusion I found in terms of what their problem was. It seemed to me that at one point they were talking about teachers requiring cultural training, and then it seemed to jump that they were developing cultural modules for students. So there was a confusion as to what that was, and on that grounds alone, I said, well, if you don't know what it is you want, you know, it can't help you.
It's funny you say that, Preston. My first comment was an actual problem isn't really asserted.
Yeah.
They go on and on about economic growth and really describe a flourishing population and this incredible growth, prosperous within trade and their IT industry sector. Mm-hmm. It sounds like things are really good. If there's some need, this incredible economy might be able to fund it if they can figure out what the actual problem is.
Right. Right.
Anybody else have any comments on this?
I guess that was my comment, was it just doesn't seem clear what they're asking for again. And I think a sense of clarity has to scream out of a funding request, whatever you're requesting from. It's got to screen what it is you're seeking the money for and then justify it.
Yeah, making the need a priority. They do a better job than the first one at putting forth their need, and they do a little bit better job than the other of targeting what they actually want to accomplish. But basically, in my opinion, the first one was, here's a nice little travel guide. And then in this one, I would say that this is more like, we want to go see India. Pay for our trip.
Yeah.
Which honestly, there are things that do that. That's what a Fulbright is for. That would be much better written than.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like it was a Chamber of Commerce kind of thing, saying, "Come and visit us." That's exactly what I thought. The other thing was that if I saw the word "understand" so many times, I was beginning to not understand.
I think what hung me up is this in this example is the same as all of the comments from the first one. They still haven't established the need. They haven't sold me that teaching the cultural sensitivities or introducing folks to the differences in cultures is going to net them anything. Why? Okay, that's nice. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 25% of the population they're saying is coming over that are Indian. So I have a question mark there. Like, is that a large population, do you think? In this?
We don't know. And they have no sourcing, no citations to back up their information. They don't have.
Right, where they say that teachers who experience other cultures firsthand are improved, but they don't cite anything, not empirical, not anecdotal, zero.
Yeah, very good. You guys are good at this. You're really good at saying no. Okay, so moving on to the third one then. The third one is the one for career planning workshops for chemistry graduates. This is the judgy group, right? All right, yes or no on this one?
This one was better. You know, this one would be a maybe for me.
But
Okay.
it was everywhere, Jeremy.
What,
I found
what,
it was everywhere.
What, Lorraine, you thought it was all over the
Sorry,
place?
I felt they had so many objectives in there. I mean, yeah, you're right, Jeremy. As far as more solid objectives, for sure, they're there. But I just found, if this is the correct one, yes.
This was the one, though, for me too, Lorraine, that was the worst in terms of their editing. There were so many errors. Percent is 2 words, and era instead of an era. I probably would throw it in the trash for that alone. But in other ways, I did think it was better than the others. Okay,
so how many of you would say no to this?
Well, I'd say grammar aside, I actually thought that I would consider funding them, and the reason why is because they did specify how long they wanted it for. They did specify exactly for what reason and what task that they were going to do, and so they're going to meet it according to the need that they had at the time, and they explained that, and I thought that was clear enough to warrant it. But certainly true about grammatical stuff. I mean, that's where I think I rated them lower on. But
Preston, did you think it was clear? I'm sorry. Did you think it was clear that they wanted? I wasn't sure whether they wanted $12,000 per year for 4 years, $48,000, or $12,000 total across 4 years.
Well,
don't get me wrong. I still like theirs, but that was a question mark I'd written down.
Yeah, I would say they'd get $12,000 from me because it said over 4 years. So unless they
so you'd be sending them $3,000 a year for 4 years.
Yeah, they would have gotten $12,000 from me, but that not $1 more. You know.
All right. So other
put me down for that.
For those of you that said that you would, that did not answer yet, how many of you would fund this?
I would be more likely to fund this one than I would the other 2 before it, because this one at least has some history and it has some examples and it has some ideas what they want to do with the money that they're sharing. So it's more explicit and it's more concrete than the other one. So if you maybe choose, like, out of these 3 so far, which one I would fund, it would be this one over the other 2 at least.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Depending entirely upon who's giving the funding and where the funding is coming from and what the stated purpose for the funding is. This, I mean, assuming that they're writing to the intent of the grant proposal, you know, the RFP, which, yes, I know that's a big assumption, but let's assume that that's the case. I would fund them. They're very specific. There's a measurable outcome. There's an intent that matches a need. I'd have funded them. But I'm not a grammatical picky kind of person, so I didn't even pay attention to that stuff.
And to be honest, I'm not either, because I have seen so many papers. As long as you can read it and it doesn't interfere with reading of the proposal, even though I teach English, I'm okay with it, because language is language. People don't know where all those commas and things go. Yeah, I know, Jeremy, it's a typo. They should have somebody else read it. I totally agree. But maybe they were writing it at the last minute under pressure. And
Oh, yeah, I definitely want to hand 5 figures to somebody that does everything at the last minute.
well, guess
Well, it does depend on the amount.
We can give them a little writing feedback in the same envelope as the check.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's an innocent mistake, and even the meaning was not impacted by any of the errors that I found. I concur.
Of course, there's nothing to say that it couldn't be sent back to them saying, you know, this could have been approved this year, but it won't be because it's not. There's some clarification errors and grammatical errors that need to be addressed.
And the reality is, depending upon how competitive the grant proposals are, that happens.
Yeah.
Well, but that's a question I have, Heather, and maybe for you too, Jen. Obviously, does that happen? Like, do they get back to you and say, "Oh, you were close. If you just proofread a little better, and if it were really 5 pages and not 18."
Sometimes you can ask them.
But okay, so they don't just. It's not like not getting a job where they never quite really tell you why.
No. In my experience, it depends entirely upon how competitive it is and who is reviewing it. If it's a state grant that, for instance, rather than a federal grant and they have to work with you, or it's a foundation that you have connections with, you'll absolutely get that feedback. If you're one of thousands of grants and only 1% get funded, yeah, don't expect any feedback.
Right.
Well, what I was told, and I've sat through about 6 NSF webinars now for different things that we were going to be putting in for. About 30% do not follow the formatting requirements. So it could be the length, it could be the font that they use, even as much as like the typos and things like that. If they skim down through and they don't like it, they cut 30% without even fully reading them. Okay. Then the next 30%, then the remaining 70% are divvied out with people, and you have a primary reader and a secondary reader, or sometimes 2. And they go through it and they say, this is what's good, this is what's bad, kind of like we were doing with their needs statements right now, but this goes for the whole grant. And if you score a 4 or a 5 average, usually you get talked about, and that's about 20% of the grants that were applied, that were sent in for federal funding. So only about 20% actually make it to the point where they get talked about at the table. And of those, only about 7% actually get funded. So if you're heading for a federal grant through NSF, your funding possibilities are pretty slim. But is it worth still putting it in for them? Yeah, because if you have a good idea and it's well written, then there are chances that you can get things and you can have the money to do the good work that you really want to do. So it's all in how you spin it and how well you spin it and how well you meet the parameters. And to be honest, the thing that this grant does very well that the other ones did not do is they showed evidence of prior work. They already have commitments from somebody else that thinks that this is a good thing. They've been doing it for a long time, or for a while anyway, and they need funding to continue that project and that what they're working on. And both of those things show promise, and they show that they can probably trust you that you will do what you say you can do. It does, yes.
No, for this one, they didn't really mention like results or feedback from people that have done it in the past. I was kind of curious, would that be something that's appropriate here, or did they skip that? Because that kind of caught me as like, well, if they've been doing it since 1995, what are the results?
Yeah, you could, if you had room, you could put that in there unless they specifically say they don't want it. They should have probably. But that is a great question, yes. And the fact that they don't actually give you the results of anything that they've worked on, but they do say that they've been doing it for a while, people are funding it, and that they just want the money to continue. And so this was actually, out of the first 3, this was the only one that was funded. The lady at the grant workshop told us that this one was funded. So they did fund it for the $12,000. It's really not a lot of money. Did any of you think that to put on a conference is $12,000, $3,000 a year, a lot of money? Have you priced anything out?
That's cheap.
Yeah. That's the other comment that she had for us to make us think about it. Because I was like, oh, 12,000. They only want 12,000. Sure, give them the money. I was like, yeah, right. Sign them up. And she said, think about it. Can you really do the work they're proposing for that amount of money? If you are short selling what you're trying to do, there's also a big chance that you're going to get cut, even if you're coming in on the low ball end of the budget. So make sure that you plan out your budget and then you scale it to whatever the proposal asks you for, and you take off the pieces of what you're trying to do to match whatever
They
funding
didn't
you're requesting.
That's the other reason I think it might have been funded. They didn't ask for the total cost. They only asked for a piece of it.
Yeah. That my sense of it was that they were getting some kind of shared cost from the college or the university. So
Right.
Then that balances it out.
Yeah, it helps a lot with having that. And Heather's right, 100%. Having a successful track record is huge. Having the support, because if I say I'm working out of my home here and this is my own little 403c corporation, I'm not going to get funded. But being able to say that I'm at Central Michigan and I'm working through their system, which is this support system, I have a much better chance of it. And to be honest, if the primary investigator of the project is going through Penn State and they already have a track record through Penn State's going to get the funding most likely over me at Central Michigan because they have a better support structure. That's why MSU and U of M have, like, a lot of the NSF funding goes to them because they have a track record. They have this support structure that's already in place. And does it screw the little people? Yeah, it does. But they also want the biggest return on their investment, and they are proven to have the structural support to be able to help with that. So,
well, and they also have the paid positions that write those grants and the bean counters, as I call them, the people who track and monitor that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed in the proposal, as well as that they're meeting the criteria and they're doing the data gathering back to those especially federal agencies that show they're fulfilling their responsibilities, all paid positions at those large institutions.
Yeah, which is why whenever we were doing indirect costs for the NSF grant that I'm putting in for, Penn State takes 56% of anything you get off the top for indirect costs. So, like, if we ask for $450,000, 56% of that is already gone. You only have a budget then left of like 100 and I don't know. It was much less than I was expecting. And the way that they've actually changed the way that NSF law guidelines work now, they don't like you to do collaborations, which allowed you to share the indirect costs. So I would have had the indirect and they would have had indirect. They get to double dip on the indirect. Penn State gets the indirect over here, and they get indirect off of $25,000, the first $25,000 I have. And then I have to take indirect at Central Michigan off of my entire, and it's 44.5%. So it's a lot more. I get a lot more bang for my buck here. So,
can I ask what kind of services?
What?
The institutions are giving for their cut? Like, what is it that you're getting from them that's worth half of what you're getting?
Indirect cost is everything Tammy said. All the people that dot your I's and cross your T's, that do your accounting, that make sure that all of your money goes where it's supposed to go.
Would it be like in a CMU context? Is it to access somebody like Ryan Buckley? Remember
It would help
connecting
pay
with
for
him like a, okay.
part of their salary would be funded off of it. The a lot of times they will chip in, and we'll talk about budgeting later, but a lot of times the university that counts for like use of the facilities, electricity, water, everything associated with anything that you're doing, even if you're not doing it in that building, but you're there, so it kind of helps with that. It pays for the stuff you mail out to the government for or whatever. It pays for your internet. It pays for the lady at the ORG office to be able to help you put your stuff through and to have access to the grant, everything you can think of.
All resources. Yeah.
So it kind of explains why institutions are so pro scholarship, because they're actually getting revenue off of the research that their faculty are doing.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that has clarified a lot for me. Thank you.
And if you're a land grant institution, like I think it's Michigan State here,
Michigan State, Penn State.
they've got instant funding already because it's by law that nobody else can apply for it. They have it. It's
Interesting.
They have a real sweet spot that they're allowed to dip into for that. Yes.
Well, I should have guessed it since everything revolves around money, but I just hadn't connected those dots.
Sometimes it's called FNA, which is facilities and didn't brush up on my terminology for tonight because we weren't talking budgets tonight. But FNA is like facilities and
administrative
probably.
Oh yeah, you got to have a little gravy built in to keep the upper administration in place.
Hey,
I said it on the record.
That's how they get paid.
Right, and it even goes down into like, if I'm hiring undergraduates to work for me, somebody in HR has to do their paperwork and to process their checks and make sure everything goes where it's supposed to be. And the people that do that even get paid for it through that funding. So.
Well, and Jen, isn't there usually support too to make sure that the funds were all spent in exactly the way that they were meant to be spent, right? Whether that's like auditing, internal audit.
I think that comes through the org's office. They have people that do that, but I'm not 100% sure how it works. I think each university would have to have people like that, but I think it would, and each place that has it would have to have somebody that takes care of that, but it would depend on how they are set up and where they fall within the administration. I don't think it's a slotted spot. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's like a spot that like every university has somebody like this or every organization has this person. Everybody has to have somebody to do it, but it could fall different places. So this is a very interesting conversation. I'm happy with this. All right.
We got to know how what the gimmicks are.
I know.
You got to know how to use the system to beat the system.
Yeah, and it's all, I'm finding out too, it's all in using the wording that they want. Like the call for proposal that they happen to have, you want to say that in your needs piece. You want to say that in your goals. You want to do your research in accordance to what you really, truly want to do. But if you can word it in a way that aligns with their wording, it's like a half a step in. You know, they're leaning in versus leaning out because they know the language that you're talking and they think that you've been talking it with them. So,
you know, it raises a question that I'd wonder, be interested to hear what other people think about it, but it raises the question of at what point is it unethical? You know, because they can be a fine line. I was just looking at one of the grants through the link I think that you had given us, Jen, and I think it's one of the NS, but it's through the DOD. And I was looking up tutoring because that's what mine's on, and I came across this one where they're looking for, you know, personal learning skill sets and stuff. I said, tutoring would be right in here. Well, they're looking for a particular type of student that's in the military. So now I'd have to go back and say, well, how many of those kinds of students do we have here? And can I then say, let me apply for the grant? But if I got 10, does that qualify, you know, out of 8,000? You know?
Right. Probably not, but if you could,
well, it all depends if they ask. They may not ask.
If you could, now theoretically, if you could expand your population by tapping into the local, getting a letter of cooperation later, which we'll talk about later, from your local National Guard base, or your, if you have a base around there that is for the reserves or something like that, if you could tap into them with a letter of cooperation that says they will recommend that they're, you know, the people that are getting training there, that they can use their monies you have some kind of agreement with them, then you have a population to access.
Hmm.
And it can spread out and help other people that is more broad than that. So sometimes it is very gimmicky. What you can do with what they want you to do and how that aligns with what you want to do. Because you don't want to give up. You don't want to give up the core of what you want to do, your research questions, your research agenda, just to get some money. You need to make sure that it aligns with what you want to do and be very careful picking, which one you're going after very carefully so that the alignment of what you want and what they want matches up. That doesn't mean to say, though, you couldn't tweak it, like I was just telling you, to make it align with what they want. They want tutoring programs in a K-12 online school, and Heather wants some homework help with students or like some support for students to, they're saying we're going to pay for tutors, but that's all we're going to pay for. Then by God, maybe tweak your help
Right.
to exactly what they are asking for, if it aligns with your thoughts.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's not what I intended. It was facility administration. I would bet 89% that that's what it is. So, all right, so we have one more to talk about here. What do you guys think about number 4?
I would guess they got their donation.
Ditto. It was the best one for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they have research, they have a track record, they have backing, and it's through a long term. It's not just recent. So yeah, I guess I got it too.
The only reason I would think they wouldn't is if one nonprofit doesn't want to give their money to another nonprofit.
Along the same lines, the only little teeny critique I had was in the what you did category, and it ties to the point Matt made earlier about the other one. It seems like they could possibly offer a bit of information about their success rate with adolescents in the past as a way to make it a little bit more compelling.
Yeah, and I would have wanted to know how many students they think they could actually apply this grant to. So since it's supposed to be covering their tuition or whatever their payments for treatment, just how many would that actually cover? But minor point.
Not as many as you think.
Right.
Yeah. You know what caught me, though? The very first line. Where are they getting their statistics from?
I kind of smiled at that, I have to admit.
Well, they should have cited it, but I can tell you where they got it.
Yeah, you can tell where you got it, but does Booze News sound like it is a reliable?
I'm sure it's a scholarly resource. Come on. It's got to be written at the Mayo Rehab Clinic.
Yeah.
Lots of research based to it. They experiment with booze.
Well, actually, what I was told is that it is actually a legit publication. But that was my comment was, they're getting their information from Booze News. You would think that at least they would parenthetically cite it with the author's name so Booze News wasn't in their first line or something like that, because it just sounds like a hokey, like, I'm a backyard brewer and I'm sending this out to everybody. I'm running moonshine. I'm not. It's recorded, but I'm not. It's just, yeah. But this one also was funded, but they were actually asked to rework pieces of this and revise it and resubmit. So that answers another question somebody had asked for earlier. That's nice, Julie. Great research there. So they were actually asked to revise, resubmit, and I'm not sure what they actually did for their second submission, but then they were funded for what they requested. So I guess you can be pretty
wordy.
Yeah,
It just seems so busy, that first paragraph. I don't know. Everything's there. But what is this HYCF? There's another acronym I didn't understand.
HYCF?
Maybe it was just the institution, I guess.
I thought it was just the institution.
Yeah, I think it's the institution that's
right
proposing this, because it's Hazelden eventually. But they were funded. Does anybody have an objection to them being funded? Especially
what were they funded for? Maybe I'm wrong and I looked at this maybe not in enough detail. But what was their solid the problem statement? Like what were they funded for? What was their goal? What were their objectives here? Maybe I just totally missed it. But to me it just was so wordy and it just didn't just like I say, to me it was just hard to find what I was looking for. But I'll look at it again. Maybe I just looked at it too briefly.
Basically, they were proposing that they develop some educational treatment centers to align with the other ones that they have already done to deal with this cost of treatment for the students. And they were given $200,000 annually for 3 years to $600,000 total from the Kellogg Foundation. So, and like Heather said, I'm betting that it did not actually treat that many people, because $200,000 a year is probably not that much money. Pay for maybe a staffer.
Yeah, this is their effort to build up their foundation so they have an ongoing capital fund that they use to, just like all of those nonprofit organizations that, what's the cancer one for kids? Something Thomas.
St. Jude.
St. Jude, yeah.
Well, they clearly had $5.3 million already applied, so.
They have a track record. They have some results. They have some other pilot projects that they've done that have aligned with what they're doing. You don't want them to think you're already doing it when you're writing it either. So your pilot should align with your project, but not be your project, or be a very, very small population that you want to expand and scale up, they call it. Because if you're already doing it with whatever you happen to have, then why should they give you money?
Now, I've got a question about these. Is that where do they talk about? And I didn't see it in any of these, in any of these statements. Is where do they talk about going on beyond the grant?
This is not it. This is just a needs statement. It's a very brief, like the 2-page document is probably the longest you'll ever see them.
Yeah.
And so the needs statement would probably boil down to 2 paragraphs in a normal grant application if they've not asked for one up front. So they would have accompanying documents that would go along with this. Perhaps your letter of inquiry or something like that would accompany your needs statement. And then that would be what you would send into the initial foundation, to say, hey, I want you to give me some money. Would you be willing to look at my proposal? That's the difference between them and a federally funded or a state funded program. Most of the foundational programs require you to submit a letter of inquiry to be able to submit a proposal, unless they have actually a very broad open call for them. But a lot of them want to make sure they even want to look at it, because they don't want 500 to look at. They want a very selected number. So, yeah, I imagine it's probably fictitious as well, if they're putting these out. All right. So everyone was supposed to write their own needs statement for each group or group of people that were working with this. I think I can get it all on one page here to look at one. You guys are gonna have to speed read a little. Layout, let me see if I can take the margins off. I'm trying to get Preston's all on one page without.
And did you get mine, Jennifer?
It's in my email,
okay.
And not in the class link, yes. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna have to.
Admittedly, I was hoping that mine would be the last one, then everybody could say, oh yeah, I know I got work to do.
All right, so just skim. Whenever you need me to scoot down, it's only there's 2 lines on the next page.
2 lines on the next page.
Yeah. Can actually make it a little bigger even.
Mine needs some.
Oh yeah, this is just the first.
No, it's good. Preston looks good. There's
You can select it and make it one reduce the spacing.
Oh, didn't even think of that.
wherever it is.
Yeah.
Max, gotta love them.
No, just me.
Paragraph.
If you want me to read it, it has to stop moving.
Okay.
I can't hang with the.
There we go. I will not touch it again now.
Okay.
There we go.
Tried to keep it to a page.
Yeah. It's a page on 1.5 or 1.14 or whatever. I will say, as a whole, I thought the class had better ones than the first two.
I was gonna say, I don't know, Preston, I don't know why you're beating yourself up so bad. I don't think it's a badly written needs statement. You've got some supporting demographics. You've got a clear statement for what you're looking for.
I say the difficulty was saying, how do I keep it in just a couple of paragraphs? That was the fight, with myself. And it always seems like you lose something, when
You're using our book from 811 as a credible resource as opposed to Booze News.
Yeah,
So,
because there was a real one in there that I actually have gone to see. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat you up.
So does anybody have any comments for Preston?
I think it's great. This is really good.
It's a bit picky and very fine detail, but you've jumped right from tutoring to retention.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to figure out how to prove the point of tutoring. So I'd be open to suggestions as to how to really make that jump on. How do you do it? And like I said, if I went on for a longer explanation, I could do that. I really tried to see if I could do it in just a couple of paragraphs.
I think if you added one sentence in there between the two paragraphs that she was being picky with, you would be able to write one sentence that bridges the encouragement and completion of academic goals and, continued success in the college leading to, completion of their degree.
Right in there.
Just one short sentence. I think you could find a way to wrap what you're doing in there to tie them together a little bit more than.
Or are we thinking like a sentence, even if it's just a single course where students seek out tutoring and with some consistency, that you can show a greater likelihood of being retained at the college? Something along those lines?
Oh, that's tough to say to one course.
Well, I guess let me throw out a different question. Why do you even have retention in there? What's retention got to do with what you're asking for?
Well, the interesting thing is that what we're beginning to see in the college is that there's a big movement on retention, and what I should have said is that historically community colleges have had low retention rates for students. So thinking, hindsight being back on that, kind of setting that history up, and that the goal of this college was, as part of its mission now for this coming year, strategic plan is to increase that retention rate. And one of the places that they identified was in how we tutor and identify students who are in trouble and need of support, and how to start enhancing that early on so that they will then be successful throughout their career at the college.
And see, Preston, we're doing the same thing, except we're focusing, the university is focusing on the DFW rate. So the rate of students getting Ds, Fs, and withdrawing from classes, which then leads to retention.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an extra step in there with the DFW rate.
Yeah, I think that if you were to rewrite these bottom two, just to clarify what you were trying to say up above, I think you make a very good case of why you're linking the retention rate to the tutoring services need. I think reworking those last two sentences, I think you could wrap it up in one pair, in those two paragraphs, one page of it, that you'd be able to do that. I think it looks good. I would fund you.
And like I said, Preston, that was extremely picky. There's nothing wrong with what you said. It just kind of made me go in a different direction than what you may have intended.
Yeah.
But again, don't take that as criticism.
This is good.
Minutely picky.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that is really great to do, because it brought back, I have to tell you, it brought back what I used to do 20 years ago. So it was, I said, that's why I didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah, but no, it's really good. Thanks, guys, because I think I will do it. I might actually do this at some point later.
You should.
Okay. John is the next one I have up, and he's not actually here. Do we want to pick apart John's while he's not here? Make him watch the video for it? Yeah.
No, thank you.
That's fine with me.
John, you had your chance.
You'll just have to settle with feedback from me. All right, I've got to pull up this page here. They did theirs. I'm sharing out a browser for theirs. And I'm stopping moving it right now, Julie, so you can read. I don't want to make anybody car sick.
No comments. Move on. No.
Hey,
7:55. Let's move on.
Peanut gallery is not allowed to. I will not keep you past the start of This Is Us. I promise.
Oh my gosh, that's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I should, in the interest of transparency, I'm here all alone with my son. So I've got about 15 more minutes before I've got to go through the whole bedtime exercise.
Okay, so we picked apart the other ones too quickly, but I don't want to shortchange anyone. Is there anything in here that you really want to pick apart? Any comments, any constructive criticism for this?
Well, I guess it's really good when all the brains come together. You guys did a really nice job.
Oh, come on, Preston, take a swing at something.
I listen. It's hard for me to read it online. I get it.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm having a hard time here on my end
so
too.
in the future, when we do this, I'll ship them all out to you ahead of time so you can prepare. But I was trying to get in a cycle where what you've done for the last week actually hits for the class then on Tuesday night, so that it makes it kind of beneficial for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly 100% sure what you are trying to do.
I knew what they were trying to do because it's very similar to the thing I proposed.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh, I mean, they're adding in a laptop, but it's basically providing a laptop and a hotspot to students, right?
Will the hotspot actually, yes. Will the hotspot actually increase access for students who live in like by Claire, where there's a huge place where there's no Wi-Fi, there's no internet or cell phone access whatsoever?
I think this is for Upper Peninsula students, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but I wasn't sure if it's the same way as like here, if they have better access or what, because I've never been there.
My cell phone doesn't work. My cell phone doesn't work in the UP. From the bridge till about Escanaba, but I don't get much.
I think we probably would need to incorporate, and I mean, this is my team, and I didn't jump on this, but I think we probably will need some kind of heat map correlated with where the students actually are to prove that this would be useful.
Or just broaden it to Michigan.
Jeremy, I found a page.
I don't think that solves the problem necessarily, though, Jen. Julie, you've got something we might use for that?
Yeah, it's a broadband map that you can put in the geographic location and it shows you what the coverage is. I did it for Mount Pleasant, but it probably will work for other areas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Jen, no disrespect. I just mean if we broaden it, we just identify more dead spots, right? There are places right here in Mount Pleasant where I notice I dropped to 3G. Yeah. And then I moved 2 blocks and I'm back on 4G, for example.
Yeah. So what you could identify is using that map, like Julie said, you could identify the portion of students that this would help. And even if it doesn't help all, if it's meeting some, then that would be beneficial. Okay. getting to the next.
No, sorry, I just had kind of a question, just kind of in the area. If you had something like that, how does that address like the need with the latchkey type kids? I mean, if you're giving out a laptop and you're doing these, are these kids who are home alone all the time when they're on their work? I mean, I taught in an inner city school, and some kids didn't have electricity. So, I mean, you give them a laptop, you give them a hotspot, and they can't plug it in. Now what do? Or if they're at daycare from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., you know, when are they doing this? So, you know, there's sometimes bigger problems when you start looking at some of these inner city issues.
I'm thinking up in the UP, they don't have latchkey kids, so.
You don't know.
I'm sorry, Matt, that wasn't being very nice. I'm sure they do.
That's fine.
I don't think we were trying to solve
curious.
everybody's problems. We were just looking at kind of general issues of accessibility and connectivity within online learners. And so it really.
Well, right. I think that's an important point to make, right? These are students who have already enrolled in a virtual academy.
Right.
So we should be able to, well, I was going to say we should be able to safely make some assumptions, but that's about the dumbest thing I could say right now. So I'll just mute my mic again.
Well, to kind of tie the comments in together and keep us moving, you're never going to solve everybody's problems with one thing.
Right.
It's going to take a community to fix the problems. You're one little drop in the bucket that's trying to fix them for one small segment of the population. So very clearly being able to define your population and the number of people that you are going to be able to work with and really support, like as Julie put into there, that's going to be able to target your grant a lot, and it's going to be able to give you some good parameters to work within. So that's all you have to think of, is you're going to very narrowly define the population that this is going to help. And if it's a pretend place, then, you know, maybe it's a pretend population that this fixes all their problem. You know, because they're already enrolled in this, they already have to have at least dial-up service, you know, that assumes that they have electricity. And it's making a lot of assumptions, but I think that that's all you can really go on with some of the things that you're working with. Matt and Katie. Theirs is nice and short, so. Everybody's really quiet.
It might be just
Matt,
me.
in your second paragraph,
It's really tiny for me to read.
based on past U.S. science performance, it is not surprising, right? I think you're missing it.
Oh my God.
Sorry, it's one of my things. It doesn't impact.
Sounds good.
Otherwise, I'll say I'm truly impressed by all the citations, by the statistics. It's compelling.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very well written, down to the point where I think if you turn this into someone, they're going to say, okay, this has been done. So the only thing I would push you to think about as you're writing these, because I know both of you have an interest in this for real, not just, you know, for the purpose of the class, is to think about how you can impact them from a different angle. You know, maybe you want to look at engagement in school. Maybe you want to look at another factor, you know, that you can actually measure and apply this to. So things like this with the robotics club, because a lot of people are doing it very successfully. They do have a good image in people's head, and they do have a good track record. So I'm not saying you wouldn't get your money, but if you can come at it from a different angle, looking at it from another skill set that they could build with it, or a way that it aligns with something else, or like Katie was interested in digital literacy. So, if you were looking at digital literacy versus, the students in the robotics club, because of all the writing that they have to do to promote their product and the draft designs and that kind of thing. If you can pick out another skill, I think that if you legitimately went to go after a grant based on this, it would really help you.
Or what if the population was larger? What if it was not just for the school, but open to the community?
It seems like when Matt first wrote up the idea, he was talking about having like schools that did not have enough students interested to have a club of their own, partnering together. And I thought that was a really unique take on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that, once it became a group project, if that kind of fell by the wayside, but that was like part of the proposal that really hooked me.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have data on those other students, but that would be something that was just a little tougher. Part of the issue, I guess, with ours was like our math students, those same students, 100% of them are proficient in math, but only 23% in science. So there's some need somewhere in there that we were trying to meet. So
hook
something
it,
about that.
Matt. A suggestion might be, going along Jen's suggestion, is hook it with some partners, some industry partners, where they're going to do job shadowing, or they have access to some career and college ready type components, because you made the connection to industry, but there's no connection between having a robotics club and will that lead to more students entering that industry or that career. So if you included in your first robotics club the business partners, and you had some people signed up or committed to that as a in-kind kind of contribution, that might be a hook too.
The mentoring
Sure.
aspect.
Yeah, and there actually is a DAO. Oh, somebody's talking. I can't hear him. But there actually is a DAO grant that comes with that. That if you have like a DAO employee working as a mentor, and we have a lot of DAO employees here, and it would be easy to get some of them to sign up as mentors. If that was included, then we could show that we have kind of that connection.
Yes. And I still think if you can find another hook to make yours different than everybody else that's turning one in, with that grant, with the DAO employee being a mentor or whatever, if there's a way, like Heather said, or Julie said, the collaboration across, and Heather put in the piece about having the employee there, and then, if you can pull in high school students or something like that to also build this like big brother kind of mentality, big brother, big sister mentality with the mentoring piece, I think you might really have something that's different and be able to like catch somebody's attention with that. Good job. I told you guys, you guys' attempts, okay, there's my Western Pennsylvania, not Pittsburgh, coming out. Your need statements, I thought, were much better written things than what the ones were in the sample stack. So you can almost, there we go. It's all on there and I won't touch it.
Mine is not short.
No, but it's all on page. It's just not double spaced. Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy, I'm spotting my own typos. So.
I didn't see any yet, Julie. So you're in the clear with me. I'll admit I've maximized it. I think I'm getting tired. These are hard to see.
Mm-hmm. Next time I will try and get them all sent out to everybody so you have them on your own device ahead of time.
Well, if I were at work, it'd be no big deal. I've got a giant screen, but I think it's being home with the one laptop screen, and the boys rifling through a big bucket of candy in the background. None of that is helping.
Does anyone want to jump in with a comment or two?
This is pretty obscure, but having spent a career in distance learning, I'm wondering what the definition of geographically close to the physical campus might be. I don't know that it would be necessary for the project, but I think that it's, the words are specific, but the definition is vague for me.
Mm-hmm. I think it would, my thought on your comment would be that it would have to also be defined on the provider that is being used by the school, and whether, you know, if you're geographically close but on a different provider, are you going to be able to access it? I think they've made it much better now recently that, you know, as long as you have the password, you can do that. But what if you don't have AT&T? Like in my house at home in Pennsylvania, my little brother, when he comes to visit, can't call anybody or get a call because there's no AT&T and Sprint in the area. His phone's really bad reception there versus the other ones that are available in the area.
I like that I think you're clearer, Julie, on the point that you're loaning the equipment than we were. I mean, I think we make it clear that it's for a student's duration of enrollment, but it can be a difficult thing to get things back when someone is no longer associated with your institution. I think you've addressed that potential problem in your work here very well.
Yeah, you might want to have to build in magistrate fees. Speaking from a district that funded their own cyber program with computer equipment, magistrate fees were a very real part of it when it came to returning equipment and having them pay for things that were there. Any other?
There's actually a fair amount of literature on these Wi-Fi loan programs in public libraries. Mm-hmm. So all the things like not getting them back, you know, having them come back broken, that kind of thing, people have begun to address. So I didn't really go down that path yet.
Nope. And that's what I was going to say as well. The same comment I had for Matt and for Katie is that I have seen this done in, like you said, the public libraries. So I think that it would be you talking with about even throwing digital literacy skills into there. I think if you could figure out a way to tie it more closely to why they're going to have the hotspots, that's going to be your selling point versus just the fact that you're going to increase connectivity for students.
Well, right. And I hopefully the last part of it talks about what I get out of it is we're collecting data on their usage, mm-hmm. right? So there'd have to be some agreement as part of the loan that in exchange for you getting the expanded access, we get to collect data on what you're doing with the library, not everything you do, but with the library. Mm-hmm. So that speaks to the digital literacy improvement.
Okay. You do say usage data and that kind of thing. I just didn't, and you allude to it in the other one. I didn't get the connection, but I'm just skimming because I just skimmed them earlier today and I'm just skimming them now. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the objectives, it's clearer that it's a two-way street. We're giving and we're getting.
Mm-hmm. All right, we only have one more, I promise. Then we are going to.
And mine is a really rough draft, Jen. I didn't.
Yeah, I know. That's okay.
I have a fun.
You didn't.
Don't oversell us, Lorraine.
No, honestly, it's bad compared to everyone else's. It's so bad.
It's not terrible. No, it's not. Nobody had a terrible one that I would say, no, I'm not going to fund at least without another look through on it.
I have it also posted on the Blackboard, Jen, if you wanted to look at it there, if it's easier.
Did I miss it before? I must have missed it. I'm sorry.
No, I put it there tonight, so no, it's not your fault.
Because I went through and downloaded the ones that were able to be downloaded.
Just me being late. I'm sorry. It's just.
That's okay. Hey, I've been living that. All right.
I think it's hard to see with the pictures. I don't know if people can read it. I don't know.
With the faces of everybody?
Yeah, I know. I can't read it.
You can click on your.
Oh, sure.
Your windows and move them.
Yeah.
I would disagree with you, Lorraine, that this is really bad. You are way over hard on yourself.
Oh, you think there's no stats here? There's nothing. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah,
I think though that the purpose is really noble. To bring two systems together that have had this sort of disparate history is kind of a neat concept.
And I'm thinking bridging it with the technology. You know, they have LMS. So I'm thinking with my digital storytelling, you know, everyone knows about that. Looking at concepts of English where they're getting, you know, where their curriculum isn't strong and we're finding it at our end, you know, so maybe there's a way to do that. So this is actually going to happen December the 10th. So I was just thinking, I don't know.
This one is due December the 10th, right?
Well, they're going to be doing this December the 10th. Yeah. Yeah. But this isn't for, no, the funding, I would be doing that with a separate funding proposal. This is just, the chair of this committee has asked me possibly to look into some research, creating a task force, starting out with this, because we've never had TDSB teachers and community colleges get together. So this will become a PD day for them. And they'll come and spend the day with us. And at the end, we'll have just this focus group type of a arrangement. But no, I got to do a lot more. So any feedback would be great.
Okay.
And also the vein, Lorraine, to be extremely picky, is in your third paragraph, the second sentence, or third sentence, excuse me, will you consider, just drop the will you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, make it a directive instead of a request.
Yeah, yeah. Because even though when we're looking for grant money, we're desperate, don't sound desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you don't want the thank you, you know, kind of thing at the end, although that's extremely polite and very nice to read. It's not going to help.
Yeah.
How would you end it? Just.
I would end it with, I would take the money amounts and drop them into the top. We are asking for, although that's more a letter of, like a letter.
I would enter it after the paragraph implementation and evaluation. The other part's going to be considered in another part of the grant application. That's not part of the needs.
Yep,
Okay.
just cut.
But this is much more well thought out and solid than you give yourself credit for. I agree with Tammy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so I know that we need to get some of you out of here. So basically that's what I wanted to cover tonight, and I was hoping to do it in 15 minutes sooner. I will not let us get off track talking about finances and budget out of place in the future. I'll keep you to the hour. I apologize for that, but I really appreciate you sticking with me to the end here and getting to look over everybody's proposal and talk through some of the points on it. You guys are doing a great job. As always, you're my rock stars. So, you know, I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Can I ask a question about process going forward?
Yep.
Would it be easier if when we post the assignment like internally in Blackboard for the grade, if we also post it in a discussion board? So that you don't have to get them and share them?
That's a fantastic idea. That's a great idea. Either that or we can make a shared Google folder where everybody throws them in. But I think Blackboard, did you notice the difference between the first class? I'm running everything through a system that I do not care for, just to keep it all in there, all in one place where all your submissions come up in the same spot and I see them when they come in. Just so you know. It was a struggle for me to do that, but I thought Blackboard was going to solve a lot of the problems we had last summer, 2 summers ago, with homework and papers flying everywhere and never knowing where you're supposed to put things. Yes, Tammy?
Are you going to offer any comments as to what we're supposed to do this week?
Sure.
Okay, because I got to say, from what's in the course, that's a little fuzzy to me about what we're exactly supposed to be doing. Okay. And if it's a group versus an individual or individuals within groups or.
Okay, so I'll share really quick. Any of you that need to ditch, you can listen to the end of recording later, or I'm going to go through real quick and then we can turn off the recording talk about it later. All right, so basically what you're doing here, you are, as an individual or a group, depending on how you've grouped up, because we have one big group, one medium group, and then some individuals. Make sure you make a group spot for yourself over on the left-hand margin, because then you're able to submit it once and it shows up as a group for all of you. You can self-select your groups. I had Course Pro via Jeremy set that up for me, so I'm hoping that it is set up properly. If not, I will go in and fix it. If you can't find a proposal to work with, you're going to use the NSF core, because it basically talks about research with any STEM field. You're doing technology of some sort, so wing it. Make it fit. If you have a better proposal already picked, fine, but somebody had told me that they did not have one, right. So there we go.
So just a quick question about it. I kind of went and looked there, but there seemed like it leads you out into a bunch of other grants and stuff there too.
Is this the wrong list?
Well, I don't know. It just seemed to open up into a bunch of things. I kind of got confused there.
Okay, right here.
So it's just there. Okay.
Right here.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So I was off on the left side there. I thought that was part of it.
No, the left side will take you down a rabbit hole. Right here where it says announcement 1509, or if you, I think there's another place. No, this is the link for it right there, and then you can do it as an HTML or a PDF, and that'll give you the information to kind of use as a guideline.
Excellent.
I started typing up a generic call for proposal, and then I started getting into all the, well, I need to add this and I need to add that, and I was like, forget it, we're just working with this one if you don't have one already picked.
Perfect, thanks.
Yep. This piece right here where it says aligning organizational needs, that's not something you turn into me. That is, if you need to help think through all the pieces and make sure that they connect and that they're reasonable, that's the kind of chart that you would work through or use to kind of put your ideas out there, especially for those of you in a group, to make sure that you have everybody's input. I'm suggesting that, not required. Group assignment, your group of 1 to 4, you're going to make a document that has your idea for the project and idea for research. Okay? The project proposal is, this is what I'm going to do. The research part of it is, this is what we're going to research on it. So you have a 2 kind of pathway with it, because even a grant that is not a research specific grant is going to require some kind of evaluation plan or some kind of way that you measure outcomes of your grant, because they're not going to give you money just because you say it's going to make everybody delightful. Okay? You need to have some way to assess it, some way to look and see if it's happening. So you're going to design this as if it is a research type grant, where you have a specific research plan and you also have your specific project that you're going to run.
So by that you mean kind of like what research methods you're going to be collecting or doing? That aspect?
Yeah, and this is sketchy. It can change. This is your first draft on it. You're going to come together and kind of figure out, there's 4 of us working on this project, and based on your needs statement and your objectives and your goal, this is the kind of thing I want to do. I want to run 6 workshops with Lego robotics, and it's going to do this. Or I want to have 2 classes supported by video tutorials, and this is how it's going to work. And what I'm going to do then to measure its success or to look at my research questions is, I want to know how it changes. The students are going to get the tutorials. Okay. For your research question, then, what kind of learning are they going to have? How do they use them? Do they access them? Do they watch them the whole time? How do they actually work with these? Any of those kind of things. And some of you that think very broadly, I'm going to make it hard. You get 1 research question a person. Okay? You might have 15 others, but I've learned that you promise small and make sure you can deliver it. And if there's a lot of other outcomes that come from it, then that is fine and dandy. But you want to make sure when you set up your project that what you say you're going to do, you can do in the amount of time that you have, with the amount of money that you have, with the amount of personnel that you have. So right now you're going to pick 1 research question that works along with it. If you really,
when you say 1 research question per person, so in our group of 4, we're going to have 4 research questions, or just 1?
Nope, you're going to have 4.
4, okay.
Because if you're working as a group for a grant, everyone has to have a need for the project. So, for example, the one that I'm working on, I am providing the expertise on science curiosity, so my research question focuses on science curiosity. Gabriella is an expert in makerspaces, and so she is looking at computational thinking in the makerspace and how it ties to the work that we're going to do. Heather works with informal science learning and family connections, and so her research question is focused on that. But we're running one big project, and all of us are going to pull data from this big group set that we're collecting. So,
Jen?
Yeah.
Is this page supposed to be showing up in our week 9?
Yeah.
I can't go beyond aligning organizational needs literature. That thing. I don't have a group assignment in mind.
Okay. So, did you and Katie make a group?
Yeah, I just made one. There it is.
Okay. As you make a group, that's why you couldn't tell Tammy.
No, I don't see it either.
You don't see it either?
No.
Let me refresh my
The
page.
last thing on my page is aligning organizational needs
Okay,
literature
so
project
we're going to do
ideas.
this
That
for
one.
now so you guys can see it. It's individual submission. I will figure out how to make it group and get all of you guys made groups now. Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Well, if I'm the group of one, I don't see the group assignment.
Now I see. Yeah, I see the group assignment now.
Okay, I took
see
it off a group assignment. I made it assignment for a group of one. I will wait until we get our groups in, and then I'll fix it to be a group assignment again.
There it is. It came in.
Okay.
Jennifer, can I submit things to the grades? Is it set up so you can submit it? Like, where are we submitting these assignments and things? Do we have an
right
assignment?
here?
Oh,
Right here.
Yeah, okay.
Right there.
Yep. You'll submit it right there. And what I'll do is after we have groups made for everyone, I'll turn it back in as a group, and that way the Fab Four and Matt and Katie can submit one copy for both of you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Tammy, I'm sure that makes a whole lot more sense. I didn't know you couldn't see the group assignment.
I couldn't, and I still can't because I only have one computer in front of me and it's shared screen, so I can't switch out, but I'm sure others have found it. It's there. Are we submitting something to the discussion board? I'm guessing lost what we're doing.
Each of you will submit your research question to the discussion board.
And then we are responding back.
Yeah, you're looking at research questions. Discussion board is looking at research questions individually. The assignment is a group assignment.
Okay. And this is our building this overall grant proposal as we're going. So I assume at the end all of this comes together for one grand document, right?
One grand 15-page document.
And that's where we can put in all of our corrections based on what we've talked about in these sessions. Like, you know, my just finishing my need statement, I can modify it for the final project. Is that the idea?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, I like it.
And what does this group assignment do?
This one right here, this is due next Sunday. Well, I'll tell you what, it'll be due next Tuesday before we have class if you want to have class on Halloween. How bad is Halloween for some of you?
I get 300 kids.
Oh.
It's pretty bad.
I'm going to be traveling.
But it'll probably be, well, it's over by 8 o'clock.
Right. All right. So I'll tell you what, I'll send out a doodle poll with some other times for next Tuesday, since it is Halloween. If we can shift it a night, or we can. Let me think it through. Maybe we'll even skip a week with it, with having a meeting. Let me think through. I just realized today that it was Halloween, so I wanted to ask you guys before you ducked out of here. But I've already kept you forever, so I do apologize. For some reason, I thought we could get it all done in an hour. But
you forgot how involved we are.
Yes.
Well, I let you go off tangent on the financial pieces instead of saying, that's later, move on. And I will be better at doing that next time. I promise. All right. So do anybody else have any questions? All right.